NFL season rapidly approaching, and injuries that happen in the preseason and in practice kind of leading up to the season can absolutely derail your entire fantasy season if you draft the wrong players, if you're not on top of things, if you're not paying attention to who's got those lingering hamstring injuries and things like that. So what am I bringing you today? We're taking a look at the NFL injury report, and I'm bringing you the most important things you need to know about, most interesting, and maybe even ones that where people are coming off of injury, they're going to be healthy, ones where people are going to be getting injured in preseason. But we don't need to look at Hayden Connor offensive line or Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, I'm sure they're great people and all, but we care more about the players that are most important to fantasy. And the first one we're going to take a look at right here is Khalil Shakir, new injury update. But this is from the 7th, so this is a couple weeks ago. But he's expected back at practice by week 1. Now, he had a little bit of an ankle issue, of course, but they kind of consider him week to week. These ankle injuries can be real tough for wide receivers and running backs to kind of come back from. That's a very awkward joint to go ahead and injure for cutting left and right and explosiveness. The ankle is almost everything, but optimism for week 1. So they're encouraged about that. So Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer are kind of the ones leading the wide receiver room right now. And Khalil Shakir is in general the most consistent. He's essentially the wide receiver 1 there, but he's not wide receiver 1 up on the lines of like Jamar Chase or Jefferson or anything like that. Probably not even as high, not even as sought after, even as like Cortland Sutton or something like that. But he is a high floor, kind of like low ceiling type of bet. But he seems like he should be okay, but these ankle injuries can be a little bit tough. So personally, I would probably honestly on my redraft slide him down the board a little bit because those first weeks coming back here, unless there's some more new, like he's 100% unaffected like that. There's not as much upside as you can get from other players, but where he goes in drafts generally, there's not really a ton of other completely safe bets either. So it's kind of shaky, kind of dicey. It's going to kind of be up to you, but he'll probably slide down just a little bit on my board anyways. Up next, this is kind of a dual one right here. Kyle Manungai and Roschon Johnson. They're the backups to DeAndre Swift in Chicago. Now, I am well acquainted with how DeAndre Swift actually operates. I'm a Lions fan, so he was in Detroit. He faked injury, so he didn't have to play because he wasn't happy. He's kind of a scumbag, in my opinion. And does he always get hurt, DeAndre Swift, or does he just fake it when he's not happy and stuff like that? It remains to be seen, but these two guys are going to be backing up DeAndre Swift, like I said, and he's kind of getting some buzz, Kyle, here, even though Roschon's been there for a little bit, but Roschon's never really been explosive. We'll say he did have like 6 touchdowns last year, almost the same as Swift, if not the same, but way less carries. He got some 1-yard carries because he's a lot bigger than DeAndre Swift. But yeah, the weird thing is undisclosed injury. He just wasn't in uniform for the preseason game. But it doesn't sound like they're really sure even what's going on, which is incredibly odd. So Manungai joins Roschon Johnson, who has a foot problem. Travis Homer is actually another running back, a calf injury, but he's just some depth piece, not as important. But so both of these guys, Manungai and Roschon Johnson. So in the future, you're going to want to keep watching these guys right here. And I don't know if this really does anything for Swift. If they bring in somebody, you're going to be like, whoa, there's something going on with the backup situation there in Chicago, and it's getting crazy. Next up, we got Marshawn Lloyd. Kind of a big one, kind of not. He's going to be backing up Josh Jacobs. Well, was anyway, / is. It's hard to say. This guy is always injured. Once again, he has a hamstring issue, which is something that knocked him out all of last season, if I'm not mistaken, or a vast majority of. He was out a big part of the season, came back, instantly got hurt again. So it says he is going to miss some time, says the head coach, Matt LaFleur. Boy, this poor guy, he's seems like he was pretty good when he was in there for a few plays here and there because he's always injured. But he returned to Saturday's game after injuring his hamstring in the second or he did not. Excuse me. I was like, wait, I didn't read that right. He did not return. So another hamstring injury. So the guy you're going to look at, if you want to handcuff Josh Jacobs, maybe one of the last 2 rounds of like Underdog or any type of best ball, DraftKings or Underdog, take a look at Emmanuel Wilson. He could be the literal only guy on the roster. He did okay with his opportunity last year when Jacobs missed a game or half a game here and stuff like that when Marshawn Lloyd was out. So the biggest thing with this Lloyd injury right here is kind of redraft, probably not worrying about it, but best ball, take a look at Emmanuel Wilson down here. He could be somebody to help out your team. Moving on to Jaden Reed here. He was in a walking boot because of his foot, but he's not wearing the walking boot at Thursday's practice. So it seems like maybe he's doing a little bit better now. So he's making incremental progress from the lingering foot injury. The thing is with the Packers wide receiver room, they got so many receivers there, so many options, but Reed's dinged up here with the foot thing. Obviously, Christian Watson. They took for the first time in 23 years, I think it was, a first-round wide receiver. They got Dobbs, they got Wicks. They got a ton of different people here, but it looks like Dobbs a back and Wicks with a calf little dinged up here and there. Neither one of these, I believe, are supposed to be long-term. Watson is maybe supposed to come back about halfway through the season. Not an exact date on that one, but just kind of one to monitor here. But it looks like Jaden Reed's probably going to be fine for the beginning of the season. And as for these walking boots, sometimes they're almost like precautionary, almost just to make sure they're not moving whatever is injured. Moving over, sticking with the same team, Jordan Love. He actually had a surgery on his thumb. The good thing here, I don't know where exactly it says it. It was on his non-throwing hand right here, his left thumb. So they're expecting him back only in like a week or two. Not very much. They completely expect him back for the beginning of week 1. So Green Bay, Love is fully on track for week 1 against Detroit, where Green Bay is going to lose to them Detroit Lions. Ooh. So with that being said, non-throwing hand, I don't really see how this could have necessarily, quote unquote, affect. Maybe just ever so slightly rusty coming into week 1 and whatnot, but I couldn't see really a re-injury risk with a off non-throwing hand. Just a little surgery on a thumb here. Next up, Joe Mixon. What is going on with this guy right here? Foot ankle injury isn't a lock to be ready for the Texans week 1, which is weird that they word it that way because it almost seems inevitable that he's not going to be there for week 1. So Mixon missed off-season programs, then kicked off training camp on the active non-football injury list due to the foot ankle injury. It was a primary absence continued from last year. So it's kind of the same thing that was going on last year, which is kind of crazy. He's been posting on social media once in a while here and there. It's not written here, but that he has been taking pictures with like his foot specialist doctor and stuff like that. So it's really not a good look if you're at the doctor so much that you're like best buds with them because your foot's such a problem. But note at kind of more towards the end of the draft, Nick Chubb could start the season just as like the bell cow, and he could end up getting himself essentially a role in this offense. If he magically, a couple years after his second ACL tear, I believe it was, comes in and actually doesn't do that bad, he could end up just straight up splitting carries, Mixon and Chubb, when Mixon comes back. It's possible, but I doubt it. He could just steal the job straight up, and he's going really late. It's double-digit rounds. You're taking people's backups and handcuffs and stuff like that, or rookies who they think might bust out in the second half of the year, especially on any of the best ball stuff. So Nick Chubb is a good late-round grab. And the thing is, though, it's hard to say with him being as old as he is. I say old. He's like 10 years younger than me. But Dameon Pierce and Ongawale has been taking passing down type of stuff. And they did draft Woody Marks as well. So Nick Chubb, though, for a late round pick, go ahead and get him. And Mixon, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of people are way off of Mixon, don't know what's going on, even after he was kind of like a bell cow last year. He has something like 5 of the last 6 years he was an RB1. So it's very, very wild what's going on with Mixon. If he keeps dropping even, if and he does get placed on the IR or something like that, I could maybe even see myself drafting him, sticking him on the IR. Or in best ball, if he gets low enough, I go ahead and draft him for hopefully maybe a end of the season, second half of the season, like RB1, amongst that period. Taking a look at Josh Downs, the number 1 there in Indianapolis for the Colts. The thing is, too, Anthony Richardson benched. Daniel Jones coming in. As far as receivers, I believe Daniel Jones is probably better off throwing them the ball for the prospects of the wide receivers. But Downs here, hamstring injury, did not practice Wednesday, and that was just today. So, man, rough going here. Hamstrings are always annoying. So the severity of the injury isn't become more clear until practice next week. So we got to wait and see how severe is this hamstring injury. They could be everything from they miss a couple of practices because they're being very careful with their, a star receiver or one of their starting receivers. Could be something like Marshawn Lloyd where there's a hamstring injury. They miss the entire season. They're never the same again. So this is an important one to go ahead and note. I don't have a lot of other analysis or opinions on it at this point in time exactly, but definitely watch out for this. This could spring up for more targets for Pittman. The rookie tight end that they got there, is it TJ Warren? Something Warren, I believe. He's already been like flashing in camp and people are loving what they're seeing. So it could be even more for him as well, possibly. Alex Pierce, deep threat kind of guy. Maybe a little bit more there. We'll have to see what goes on with Jones here. Matthew Stafford, this seems like a recurring thing every single year. I mean, what has it been the last 15 years? Stafford's had a back problem, like I said before, Lions fan here, so I've heard all about it. So it seems like he logged back-to-back practices, though, having retaken the field on Monday. So this seems like a re-aggravation of the same type of things. I mean, a lot of different people out there, and just in regular life, have back injuries. You know how they can flare up. One day it might bug you, and next day it doesn't. Or you kind of like slightly baby amount of re-injure it. This is going to have the hugest effect. Stafford is just some so-so guy that most time in redraft isn't even probably getting drafted. Maybe he is as your backup in case, one of the other quarterbacks get hurt. But this is going to be the most important thing for Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, because if it's not these guys throwing them, I believe they have, I know they got Stenson Bennett. I seen him in a preseason game the other day, but it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Stafford or Jimmy Garoppolo, there's a reason nobody wanted Garoppolo anymore. Not that great. Stafford is the, football slinger. He's not a terrible quarterback. He's does a lot of great things throwing. So this is going to be something to watch out for Puka. It's one of the things that makes it hard to draft him early, even though he's nasty awesome. He had, little injuries here and there. Everyone can get hurt. Devontae Adams, old as dirt, but when you're a superstar, usually the age cliff kind of is pushed out. So there's some scary stuff with these wide receivers, but if you can get over all the different old man problems and injury possibilities, they are very, very good receivers. So Najee Harris, he blew his eye out with a firework. Man, blow your eye out, kid. Be careful with those fireworks, NFL players. Please do. Please do. But he is kind of back at practice. He actually posted a picture on social media, him back working at it. But it's very interesting taking a look at this picture. If you can look and see right here, his one eye, unless he just happens to be winking the eye that he had hurt while taking this picture behind his visor, it looks like he can't even open this eye yet. And that's kind of what everyone else is saying. Chargers Najee Harris shows a Snapchat. He still can't open his left eye. That's the one he hurt. And if you look, this eye's open. This eye is closed. Now, I don't know necessarily if he literally can't open it. Do you think it's possible he's just happened to be winking for that picture behind the thing? It's possible. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But he is getting back to practice, even though he did kind of miss a lot of the preseason type of practice and things like that. He's getting in the swing of things. This is going to matter mostly for what this does to Omarion Hampton. That guy is getting gassed up. He's getting pumped up in the ADP. I think he's going like the end of the third now for a rookie that really was going like the 10th round. We're talking ADP for best ball, that is, average draft position. But he's getting pumped way up there. So if he gets back into splitting carries with Omarion Hampton, you might be very sad for drafting Omarion. So keep an eye on this, on what this means for his playing time coming to the beginning of the season. Devon Achane injured. Tell me if you haven't heard this one before. Unfortunately, super fast guy, super great athlete, but it seems like between Tua getting hurt really nukes the team, Achane getting hurt, and that obviously hurts Achane as well. He wasn't likely to practice. He's not likely to practice this week. Excuse me. So I wouldn't expect the running back to play in Saturday's preseason game. Of course, yeah. If there's any injury for your superstar stud type of players, they just go ahead and hold them out. He did say, and this is good news right here. Anyways, it's more preventative in nature. Kind of just like he has a little owie. Let's just keep him out. We don't want to risk this kind of stuff. So another thing to keep an eye on, because calf injuries can make it so you can't do those quick movements. You can't cut left or right or whichever side you're cutting from. You can't get that explosive acceleration because you push off the toe, and the calf is what takes care of a lot of that. Another one, unfortunately, not all the news we need to see here, but it is good news that it's just preventative in nature. Next up, Tyreek Hill. He had this wrist injury last year that he was apparently playing through all season that we found out later. And apparently he has an oblique injury, kind of like your side, He's been on and off the practice field due to this oblique injury since August. So, of course, they're going to sit him out until he's fully healthy and probably just wait until week one. A veteran wide receiver at his age. He's not like 40 or anything, but he's getting up there in wide receiver names. And when you're primarily, you're solely going off of your speed and athleticism, you're getting a little bit older. Maybe you lose a little bit of a step. It hasn't seemed like it yet. But these injuries, and with him saying how he wanted to trade out of Miami, and then he didn't, and then he did, and then he didn't, whatever was going on with that, a little bit scary, but that's kind of the reason that his ADP is getting slightly depressed anyways. Going in the third round and maybe even slip into the fourth if you're in a room of people who don't really want to take on the risk. They brought in for tight end Darren Waller. I mean, what is that really going to do for anything? So they haven't really brought in any real, competition. Still Jalen Waddle and Tyreek. And I would say Waller is a downgrade from, was it Ingram they had before? Achane's going to be getting some stuff. So the team hasn't changed that much. This doesn't sound too big of a deal. They're just kind of giving him his time off, a veteran day, essentially. So Steph Diggs coming back from a torn ACL. See, it's listed here as a knee. Now, you hear this a lot about the ACLs ahead of schedule. The thing is that they do end up, if you're really working at the rehab and you heal well and everything, they can come back really easy. But from what I've noticed, what I've seen, and what I've heard from different, medical doctors that specialize in fantasy football type of stuff, they look at the analytics between how much they come back to their 100% and how long it takes them to get back to 100%. When they first come back from a torn ACL, it's usually at like a 50% or 70% of what they were before. It's not back to 100%. Diggs was pretty good there in Houston, but then he suffered this torn ACL. He's coming straight back from it, and there's probably going to be quite a bit of a dip, but he's essentially the de facto number one there in New England with an up-and-coming quarterback. So it's a really tough one. He's also not going very early. He's right down in that round with a few different rookies like Matthew Golden, and then he's right around with like Jacoby Myers, kind of like a high floor, low ceiling type of guy. So I could see taking Diggs around there, especially since he's probably not going to be at that late, not one of your starting wide receiver. He would be flex at most, and he might even be coming in to be a bench player on your particular fantasy football team, I'm saying. And then you have a possible superstar if he is actually coming back way faster and doesn't have that ACL dip off. But usually it's like a full year. So it probably won't be, just in my guesstimation from what I've seen in fantasy football and from what I've heard from doctors talking about fantasy football, it'll probably be like mid-season before he's back to full form. So if he can go on your bench, you don't really want him like your wide receiver 2 or maybe even 3, because you're going to have to suffer through, kind of just slow, ramp up throughout the season as he, gets better and better. Next up, we got Malik Nabers, another one that's tragic, going in the first round here, at least for the best ball. A lot of stuff. His ADP's right around the turn anyways. Toe, shoulder, back. He's had a lot of little ding-ups over the preseason, going back into training camp and everything as well. So he's been limited, but this is a guy that is their absolute stud, probably the best and only thing they got on their team. Rusty Wilson throwing the ball. They do have a rookie coming in that could be good at quarterback there, but they fully expect that Nabers to be ready for week 1. And I would say with what this is sounding like, it's just, a little injury here, sit him out. We want to, be precautionary. Shoulder, a little stiff back, just sit him out. It'll be fine. He did sit out a little bit of time though, with that back. So it's hard to say for sure. I don't think it's very serious though. I really can't say for sure. Like I said, keep monitoring the injury reports, and I'll have more videos like this coming out to make sure we stay on top of things. But sounds like he'll be perfectly fine. The biggest problem is going to be Rusty Wilson as his quarterback. AJ Brown coming in injured, and this is another one kind of like Mahogany, Manungai, or whatever his name is, and Roshan Johnson earlier. It's kind of a dual purpose because actually AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert all hurt, limited, and or sitting out. So Brown's sitting out another practice. I don't remember if it says down here, but Devontae Smith, I believe, was sitting out of practice, and it sounded like Dallas Goedert actually not sitting out. He was just like limited for a few days. So Goddard seems perfectly fine, and with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are like they're 1 and 2, and almost nobody else ever touches the ball besides like the 3 receivers I just said in Saquon Barkley. They're probably just being extra super cautious. They're here taking a cautious approach with his recovery. And I believe it's the same thing with Devontae Adams. Goddard seems to be pretty much out of the woods, just a little dinged up, and they're like, hey, you're for as far as football players are concerned, you're kind of older, you're a veteran. Take it easy, get back to full health. Next up is Brandon Ayuk. This is not a new injury, but just kind of like reiterating, he had the same thing as Steph Diggs with the ACL. Now he had an ACL and MCL tear, which, I mean, 2 is worse than 1 as far as it comes to injuries. So he's going to start the year on the PUP, unlike Devontae Adams, or unlike Steph Diggs, excuse me. And he's probably not going to come back till midway through the season. So Juwan Jennings also a little bit hurt. Cowing's not as nearly as important. But Ricky Pearsall is going to be the GOAT at the beginning of the season. We don't even know if Jennings can even make it back. Brandon Ayuk definitely isn't going to make it back. And like I was talking about the ACL with Steph Diggs, they don't usually come back, and they're usually not 100%. They really slowly ease into over like 4, 6, 8 weeks. of getting up to, they'll come out and they'll play. They'll try to play the full allotment of snap stuff, but they're just not as explosive. They can't take off. They got to strengthen up, get back in, get that knee and stuff back into gameplay position. They don't trust it as much. They just never quite are the same when they first come back. Usually for Ayuk, not this season, but probably next season, he will be back to full form. That's just the way it seems from my everything I've seen, experience or whatever. So personally, unless it was like super late, pretty much best ball, you can kind of take Ayuk, just hoping for like end of the season, catching a deep touchdown or something, drafting him late. But for season long, even plugging him on the IR, I almost don't even want to waste the IR spot, to be honest, because I don't know that he'll ever be back this season to full form to where he'll actually help your team out. You're going to be end up plugging him in there because he's Brandon Ayuk. He's got that name, and then he doesn't get it for you. And we already talked about this a little bit, but yeah, Jauan Jennings, these calf injuries, you lose that explosiveness, you lose that, quick start. And those quick starts, you make a cut going here and there, and you can't make that explosive cut super quick. Boom. The cornerback jumps the route now. You don't get that. He knocks it down. He intercepts it. So even if he comes back, these calves are a problem, especially when they keep happening. He aggravates an injury he had back in the early parts of training camp and whatnot in the offseason program. So Jennings, one of the oldest players to ever break out at 27 or 28 or something, whatever he is, when he had that big section of games last year, but there's not a lot of other competition there. So if he can get over this calf injury, which I don't know that it's a scary one. It's a little bit scary. And once again, he's not going super high. He's going in like the 10th round or something like that in best ball anyway. So it's a tough pick, but later on you can kind of take those chances. But Chris Godwin, he's had this ankle injury. He just completely annihilated his ankle, everything broken and destroyed in there. It sounded like anyways. So it sounds like they're actually not putting him on the PUP list after all. They're going to carry him on the 53-man roster, but it sounds more like it's this part right here. That way he'll actually be eligible to practice. So if you're on the PUP, apparently, either you have to practice by yourself off the side. I don't know the full, rules of that or whatever, but they're going to carry him on the list, on the actual 53-man roster, so that he can actually practice with the team, get fully up to speed and everything like that, because he's missed a lot of time here early on in the season. So he's probably not going to come out and play week one. Just keep that in mind. He's probably not going to be back for like 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that is what they had said. Important to note, though, that Jalen McMillan, he landed on his head awkwardly, was knocked out. They expect him to miss some time early in the season. From what I've heard, they expect him to miss probably something like half the season with this neck injury. So I don't know exactly what happened. That's the latest I've heard about it. So we got Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka. So if Godwin can come back, that ankle injury, ACLs happen so often. That's why I kind of know about the efficiency drop of that. I don't know the efficiency drop of Godwin's type of ankle injury, but he blew everything out in there. So I got to assume that it's a pretty slow getting back to 100% type of process again. Maybe being a veteran wide receiver, you can really help you just use your smarts instead of using explosiveness. And because he is a little bit older for wide receiver, not super old. I think he's younger than Mike Evans, but he actually started out last season before he blew out his ankle. He was the number 1 overall fantasy wide receiver. So he doesn't really have a lot of competition. He's going to definitely probably get into the starting lineup when he's back to, fully healthy or whatever. So he's another one that's going super, super late. He's going to be on the 53-man roster, so not on IR. You can't put him in an IR spot. It's going to be a tough take in those season-long leagues. Maybe best ball could be somebody you could take, because it sounds like McMillan sounds like this was actually a lot scarier than just like neck. Expected to miss some time. He might be, real hurt. Achane is always just like a safety valve, never really takes a whole lot. But these guys, they could have just the craziest wide receiver core with Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, and imagine if Godwin can actually come back. So Godwin's good, like I said, going to be tough to / impossible to take in those season-long leagues with him never knowing when he's going to come back, not on IR, but maybe in the best balls, he could be, a guy to kind of win you the thing for you later in the season. So, hey, if this video helped you out, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe up to the channel if you haven't done so already. And hey, best of luck on your fantasy football drafts.